Yeah, we back. Now today, man, it's going to be a short video. I'm just going to be reacting to a tweet that I had seen that I thought was interesting. If you take a look up on the screen, you'll see a tweet that says, Europeans have endless libraries full of scholarship about their own civilizations as well as defining the civilizations of others. They write on every subject imaginable. You can hate on them all you want, but we should be doing the same thing. Why aren't we? Now, let's discuss that. And this is a subject that's very dear to my heart because I feel like me personally, my people especially have been a victim of the European narrative of history, the distorted, the discombobulated narrative given to us, regurgitated back to us by the Europeans, which is completely inaccurate. And that's why I've dedicated a large portion of my channel to bringing the correct narrative. If you go to my playlist section, I have a large library of content giving the black man's point of view, the black man's narrative of history that was never acknowledged by the European, because the black man's narrative is not going to be taught within European universities. It's not going to be institutionalized on a mass scale. And a large reason why I have such a massive library of historical content in my catalog is because my ancestors left a large amount of literature behind for their descendants. You know, all praises due to them. Now, unfortunately, in the mid-19th century, due to our admiration and love for Jesus Christ, we allowed the Catholic Church to take over our educational institutions. So, of course, the European narrative is what our young children are being fed. And like I said before, it's bullshit, it's distorted, it's discombobulated. That's why if you go up to the average Haitian, they couldn't tell you not a single goddamn thing about their history, bro. The average Haitian really don't know shit about shit. And I'm not talking down on my own people, because the average black person really don't know shit about shit either in terms of their ancestral history. They really don't. You niggas know more about the European narrative of history. You know you do. And I remember recently I was at a family function and I seen some younger cousins that I haven't seen in a while. They're like, what, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I was talking to them and I was asking them questions about their own history. And they couldn't really tell me too much. But when I asked them about Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, man, off the top of their head, they already knew. They could already tell me, a brief life story about what they were about, what they did, what they accomplished. Because like I mentioned before, the European narrative is the dominant narrative. And not only do they control the narrative by the amount of literature that they left behind, but they institutionalize everything. So, for example, I'm not sure how it is in other places, but in the United States, the curriculum is pretty much standardized. So that means that regardless of whatever school you go to, you're going to be learning the same exact thing at the same exact time. I remember I went to private school, right? And I remember in the 7th grade, my cousins went to public school, but we were learning the exact same curriculum in every single subject, from math, science to history, which means there is zero confusion about the historical narrative. If you put 20 people in a room, they're going to be able to regurgitate the European narrative of history off the top of their head, and they're all going to say the same exact thing. If you put those same 20 people in a room and tell them to talk about black history, they're all going to say a different thing. They're all going to have a different story to tell, because not only did our ancestors not leave enough literature behind, but also we didn't institutionalize anything or create any curriculums for our children to learn from, which means that as a black person, your knowledge of history is going to come through independent research, which means that everybody's going to have a different narrative because everybody is doing their own independent studies. Unlike the European narrative of history, which is institutionalized. So everybody in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, regardless of whatever school you're going to, you're learning the same exact thing. The 4th grader in this school is learning the same exact historical narrative as a 4th grader in another school. So by the time they're 18 years old, everybody has the same basic general framework of the narrative of history. And unfortunately, the European narrative of history basically says that your history did not start until you met Europeans. That is what the European narrative of history states, which means that once we came to the New World, or once we came to your native lands, that is where your history began. Before you met us, you didn't have no history. And unfortunately, many people are satisfied with that narrative because the average person has no real interest in studying history. Me, myself, personally, I've always been drawn to the topic of history. I've always felt that it was important, because how the hell you gonna know where you're going if you didn't know where you've been? But the average person really doesn't give two fucks. So they're gonna take the European narrative of history and they're gonna run with that. And I know the average black person doesn't really care about history, because I could even see in my analytics, my videos on history are among my lowest performing videos. But when I come with some, current events, some spicy, controversial topics, oh man, we going up. The views be going through the moon. The algorithm be picking it up. The algorithm be spreading it around. So in summary, the reason why the average black person doesn't know a goddamn thing about history is, number one, the European narrative of history is the dominant narrative of history. Number two, the European narrative of history is institutionalized through centers of learning, universities, schools, etc., etc. We do not create our own curriculums for our own children. Unlike the Jewish community, for example, they teach their children their history. By the time they're 18 years old, they're already at a PhD level mastery of their own history. But meanwhile, the average black person by 18 years old doesn't know a goddamn thing about shit when it comes to the historical narrative of their ancestors. If you notice, black people come into consciousness later in life. Motherfuckers be like 38 years old, finally deciding to pick up a book and study history. Like, nigga, you supposed to been knew this when you was like 15 years old, 16 years old. Now you damn near 40, now you want to study your ancestors. Nigga, it's too late. It's too late. You can't do shit with that information now, nigga, you old. Meanwhile, European children, 7, 8, 9 years old, already learning about their forefathers, already learning about Christopher Columbus, already learning about George Washington, already learning about Thomas Jefferson, already learning about Winston Churchill, already learning about Cecil Rhodes. Meanwhile, black people wait till they're 42 years old to finally pick up a goddamn book. And that's why I dedicated a large part of my channel, like I said, to correcting a lot of false narratives that have been disseminated by the European as it relates to the history of my people, right? And I encourage all black men to correct the narrative of your people, whether you're Nigerian, you're Ethiopian, whatever. Give the correct narrative of history, because like the tweet says, Europeans not only write about their own civilizations, but they define the civilizations of others. And when they define the civilizations of others, they're always going to put themselves in a positive light. They're always going to give themselves the role of the protagonist, the savior, the conqueror, right? And you're going to be the one that's, the victim, the helpless, pathetic individual. But yeah, man, I don't want this video to be too long. I just thought the tweet was interesting and I wanted to get my 2 cents on the topic. But anyways, man, it's your boy Nevercard, that's Celine back in the building. Yes, indeed. Like, share, subscribe, Cash App in the description. And I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in the ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart to be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Get for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This shit is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with friends cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and get smack in their faces.